I think the guys are picking it up pretty good. They're starting to understand more and more every day. Part of the process is you add things to them every day, and so that's a challenge. Sometimes we're trying to fix the mistakes from the day before, but we're adding to their install on that day, so it's hard to focus on sometimes correcting those mistakes when we're putting new things on them. But I think they're doing a good job. I think what we've tried to do is create an offense that is as easy for us to learn as possible, but still complicated to defend. So I think it's an offense that over time, over 45 practices before our first game, that we'll have a pretty good understanding of it.
Get them to this point after all the meetings. It seemed like they had a pretty good grasp right away. On the field, pretty sharp.
Well, you spend the time that you're allowed in the meeting room trying to create that understanding and showing it to them on tape and trying to put your install together that makes sense for them to understand it. But I think the biggest thing for us is we try to create lining up simpler than most people, and I think because of that, that's part of what you see is we're able to kind of get lined up in a hurry. It doesn't mean we always understand all the little things that's going on, but we do a decent job of getting lined up.
You got a lot of Duke fans after all the film work?
What's that? I'm sorry?
You got a lot of Duke fans on the team after all the film work?
You know what? I think they're enjoying watching the tape just to see what's going on, but it's probably more fun for me to watch and think back on the season now that it's over. Those guys, they're challenged so much with trying to execute on the field and be able to handle all the things that we're giving them. I think they're just seeing bodies and not necessarily teams.
You mentioned that fundamentals and execution are kind of a huge part of it. How do you kind of feel like that is through the first couple practices?
I think it's good. I think part of what ends up happening when you're practicing early, you hear a lot of coaches yelling, and a lot of that yelling is fixing problems before they happen, with whether it's an alignment or their eyes in the right place or whatever it may be. So I think the first scrimmage is going to tell us more when we get off the field and we try to limit the communication and see where we are. I think we've got a lot of time to get this thing right, and we're going to have it concise and understand. They'll understand it. But I think the thing right now is you don't always know because you're coaching on the run rather than sitting back and seeing it like a Saturday game will be.
Obviously a different type of run game. How do you see the running backs kind of adjusting to it? So
Good. I tell you what, it's not as easy. The footwork takes time. The what we call the mesh or the exchange between the quarterback and the running backs takes time, and working out all the little fundamentals. In most exchanges in offense, you see the quarterback looking at the pocket of the running back and putting the ball on his belly. But in this run game, there's a lot the quarterback's looking at other places, so the running back has to create the mesh and make sure it's solid, and that just takes time. But we're getting 4 days better, 5 days better, 6 days better.
tight ends combined for 4 catches on this team last year. How big of an emphasis is kind of changing the direction of that?
I think the biggest thing when you put together an offense is you want them to have a defense to defend the field and defend all your skilled players, all the guys that are capable of making a play with the ball, that are wearing the right number. And, those guys are a big part of our offense. And I think they're going to be put in position to make some plays. It's been fun to evaluate, and we've had some big plays made by those guys. Yesterday I had 2 great catches by Gideon and Goolsby. So I think I think they're starting to get a feel for what we're asking them to do, and I think they're going to be capable of making some of those plays.
How's your early work with Jeff gone? I see you're kind of working fundamentally with him a lot.
Well, we're going to spend a lot of time working fundamentals. He's really talented. I didn't get to see much before I got here. I watched him in high school and knew he was heavily recruited, and those things. I really wasn't I don't know that I was one of his choices. So now I get him a luck of the draw here, I guess I should say. But that's a big, powerful, fast twitch, natural throwing motion. He's talented, folks. I mean, we're sitting here talking about a guy that's really, really gifted. And his experience shows when we have conversations. You know, he understands football. It's not his first rodeo. I mean, when we start talking coverages or fronts and how pressures are marrying each other, he understands. And so his eyes end up in the right places a lot right now. And it's working out all the new things, you know, how we run curls, how we run digs, you know, the depths of it, how we run option routes and being on time and those things, you work it out. And that's from now through the summer when he has to be in charge of it, when coaches can't be out there, through fall camp. But you know, like I say, he has command of the football, and that's hard to teach. You either kind of have it or you don't, and he has command of it.
See signs of his having gone through this before, coming in his first year, learning one system, doing a full install the next year, and now a third time.
You know, I think what ends up happening when you start talking general concepts or general things about the defense, he's able to see it in his mind's eye, you know, because he's had these conversations before. Now he has to be able to turn those concepts and how we call defenses over into our language. But it's not new to him. Say like a Will Greer who gets in and we start talking about different things. Everything's brand new to him at this level. Obviously he understands football and things, but this is a different situation. And Jeff already has such a good feel for football at this level that our conversations are at a high level when we start talking about whatever it is. You know, he grasps it. I tell the quarterbacks all the time, you'll start really understanding the offense when I can talk verbally, when we can have a verbal conversation about a play, about a defense, and you can see it in your mind's eye. You know, I make that point. And all you just kind of look up and you got the visual and you understand it. Now we're getting at a high level, and he has a lot of that.
The offensive line lost two of the big leaders on the line, John Harrison and John Halpio. Have you seen anyone kind of come in and step into that role?
Yeah, I think we got several guys doing that. You know, I think Chaz is a guy that's, you know, he's every day. He's really impressive to me. But the whole group, that first five, they're working. You know, and I think you got guys with experience in Chaz and Max and Hump to a degree that are taken to what Coach Summers is asking them to do, effort, intensity, and physical play, and all that. It's fun to watch. But, I mean, Trip Thurman's doing the same thing. I mean, he hadn't played as much, but he's out there working hard to be a good player. And then Tyler, same thing. So we got a good group working. I think there's going to be a lot of leadership at that position for us, to be honest with you, and we're going to need it. But there's a lot of stability in maturity in that group that we're going to count on.
Kurt, do you feel like you have the skilled players to do everything you'd like to do in your offense?
Yeah, I think we're talented. I think we've got some guys in space that can make plays. I think the thing that we're trying to figure out first and foremost is the tight end H-back in our offense, who we call the B, who is that? Who's the guy that's going to be the best in that situation? And so it's a fun battle to watch between all those guys that we're repping at that position. And then obviously we play a lot of 3 wide receiver sets, and so that's fun to watch. But I think we've got some talent there, some experience there, some speed there, and it just has to keep growing. And so we've got guys at just about every position that have played a lot of football here, been in a lot of tough battles on the field. And I think that B position, because it's so different from what they were doing in the past, is probably the thing that, you know, we've got to watch the closest, I should say.
How important is it to find a guy that can kind of be that deep threat at receiver?
I think it's always important. Hopefully you have more than one in that position, you know, to make the plays. You like to have them on both sides, so they have to cover. But last year, you know, our deep threat at Duke was Jamison Crowder, and hopefully the tempo of the offense and the multiplicity of the formations and things keep people from covering. So if you are, you know, in the situation where it's really mainly one deep threat, in that instance, we can still find ways to give him shots. But you got to be able to, again, I say threaten all fields of all areas of the field.
Do you have any guys that kind of stand out to you as?
Yeah, I think we got some speed. I mean, we'll take some shots. You watch Q, he can run. Chris Thompson can run. I think DeMarcus Robinson can run. All those guys have some speed. And the guys on the inside in different ways, but can stretch, still can get down the field. Pitt and Showers, those guys can run. And they can turn it over.
Couple final questions?
How have you seen the players respond to all the new information that's being given to them?
I think they're like any other players that I've been around, is they understand this is the offense, and so they're excited about learning it so they can go play on Saturday, so they can be someone that we count on to go play the game. I guess that's probably my focus. I hope they enjoy learning the offense. I hope it's something that they are excited about doing, but because it's, maybe it's an interesting offense, or it's space and it's no huddle and all that, but every player's the same. If they feel like you can help them get better, they're going to work hard for you. And this group is no different. They're working hard and enjoying the challenge.
Kurt, obviously you're focused on the guys that are here now, going through practice, but what is it like seeing Treon here this week? What does it say to you that he chose to come down here for his spring break?
Oh, all that's important. I'm sure he's chomping at the bit to get started, just like all those other guys, to move on to their next step in life. They're always ready to get going. I hope he's enjoying his last semester in high school and being around his mom and all that, because, that time flies. Now that I've become a father and all that stuff, I think that's what I think about more than anything else, is how much time can I get with my children and all that. So it's great to see him. I'm glad he's excited about being here, but more than anything, I hope he's enjoying his last few months really living at home.
Thinking back on his recruitment, how proud are you? Or were you of that job that you were able to get him to come here? And what do you think were some of those factors that led him here?
I think it's just recruiting. Obviously, I'm excited that he's coming. It wasn't a one-man band. It was a lot of people working to try to get that done. I think he sees himself, fitting into what we do offensively, and that was probably the biggest factor in his decision making.
Last one, Jeff?
How challenging is the center position, especially moving to that position and being responsible for calling out protection? Also, once a guy starts struggling with snaps, does that kind of require extra attention to keep them from getting down on themselves?
Yeah, it's a good question. Is it difficult? Yes, it's difficult. The gun snap is difficult because it used to be, it wasn't that long ago, nobody got in the gun. And I'm talking, mid-90s. I mean, everybody was underneath center and, hey, let's not put the ball in jeopardy and those type things. And then everybody said, we can do this on third downs. We can get in gun and pass protect or run draws, and because the center's setting back. And then somebody, and I can't tell you who started, said, you know what, we're gonna come off and be physical and still snap the ball and do it. So it's a very challenging skill to try to be physical and go forward while you're gun snapping. And it's not easy. I think you obviously keep working on it. We work on it before every practice, and then they work on it, I don't know how many times during a practice where it's happening live, but it's huge. I mean, go back to the first play of the Super Bowl this year. What happened on a gun snap? There was a miscommunication and the ball went by. So it's at every level. It doesn't matter what level you're at. You still try to focus on that as much as you possibly can, and it's a skill. There's a lot going on for that guy up front other than just snapping that football, and so you just try to keep getting better at it. That's why right now you don't see us alternating back and forth, gun and under, because we're trying to focus in on that. And we'll have some offense where we're underneath center, and we'll have to work that. But right now, that 5-yard snap, it's not easy. There's 300-pounders right over them, on the snap of the ball coming off. I mean, you always want to get better. I don't want the ball off center or rolling on the ground. All that has to do with timing in the run game and exchanges and all that. But am I happy with the way Max is working and trying to, yeah. And do I think he can do it and be really good at it? I do. I think he's talented. I think he's got really fast hands, and that's not easy. So he's able to snap it and then get his hands up and fit his hands inside in the run game, because what you got to see, these guys are about that far apart. So he's snapping the ball and then has to get his hand up there before the defender gets his hands on him, and so he's got those skills, and you just keep working the snap.